All right, so this is the video on how to do the homework for the ATLS data structures class. So this is ATLS 2270. All right, so you should have a link, and I just happen to have one pasted here. So you're going to get a link on the course website for each individual homework assignment. This process will be the same for all the assignments in the semester. So once you understand how to do this the first time, now you understand the process for every single homework. It is maybe a little more complicated than it strictly has to be, but this is also realistic with respect to how people do development in the wild. So I don't want to start you off with training wheels. I want to show you how things actually work in the real world. Okay, so in the real world, you don't actually have homework assignments, but everything about except that is real. Okay, so it looks different for me because I've already accepted it and then I deleted it. I just wanted to show you what this looks like. So you'll go through this process. You'll go to GitHub Classroom, and you'll accept your assignment. It's going to create a copy of the homework that's just for you, and see, it puts your name on it. So here my user name on GitHub is JohnSog. So it'll do the same thing for you. You'll have a link that looks just like this, except it'll have your GitHub username on it. So you click into it, and this is your fresh, pristine version of the homework. And you can see it was based on my master main repository for the homework assignment. So there's nothing much to look at here. This is just the assignment as it comes. And every assignment has its own specific README about how to do it. So you can read through here. You can also read through the general.md files. This is just general advice for what to do. This will basically, this is a substitute for this video. Probably you'll watch this video and never want to see this ever again. You can always go to the general.md file and read all about how to do all this stuff. If you forget a step, if you're messed up or something, you can always look at this. Okay, so what I want to show you from here, there's something you got to do. So you have to clone this repository. So if you are using GitHub desktop, you would be able to clone this directory directly using the URL. You can also clone it this way. You can hit the button to open with GitHub desktop. You can use that. I'm going to show you the command line way, but the opening with GitHub desktop is just as good. So if you aren't down with the command line yet, that's cool. Just use GitHub desktop. I'm going to use SSH because it's actually a lot easier for me. So I've gone to the SSH version, and I've hit this button to copy the URL. So that's one of the things that I need to check out and to clone this repository. So here on my command line, I say ls-l. I should have got rid of this. I want to remove it. There. Oops. Okay, there. So now if I do ls-l, I don't have it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do git clone, and I'm going to paste in that URL, or the fragment of the URL that I just got over here. So I'm going to say git clone, and I paste that in. And if I hit enter, it pulls all this stuff down. So now if I type ls, oh, I'm not in the right directory. So if I cd into the right directory, 01, tab complete. Now if I look around, these are all the files that I saw on the website over here. So all of these things here, there's a Statue of Liberty, there's a Statue of Liberty. So you could look at this in your file system explorer if you want to. What I'm going to do here is now I'm going to start the editor for it. So I'm going to do code dot. That means start my VS Code editor in this directory, and it will open it. Okay, so here I'm looking at all my files, and what I want to do first, and you'll have to do this just one time for every homework, you need to do npm I, or you can type out install, either way. So npm I, you hit enter. And what this does is it will, and this is maybe a little inside baseball, but it looks at this package.json file and it will install all of these dependencies. It's going to get you TypeScript for type checking. It's going to give you a whole bunch of other things. Jest is the thing that we use to do unit testing. That's the thing that actually grades your homework. Okay, so now we've installed it. And now, just for grins, and this is something that I always like to do because I'm weird, I guess, I like to run the unit tests when I know that I haven't done anything, just to make sure that the unit tests themselves are telling me the correct thing, which in this case should be they don't work at all. Well, the unit tests work, but every test fails. So if I do npm test, and I'll just make my terminal bigger here, it will run my tests, and all of them fail because I haven't actually done the homework yet. Okay, cool. So it's doing the right thing. So every homework is going to have a file that you are responsible for editing. So that's in the source directory. We spell it src. It's just a convention. And you can see that there's a bunch of stuff. The file that you're going to edit is this one. Every homework is going to have its own special one. It should be pretty obvious which one to edit. The unit tests all have .test.ts at the end. So you don't edit these. It will actually tell me that if you've edited these, and if you do, that's fine. It copies in our own version of them. So if you want to just explore in here, just mess around, see exactly what the tests are doing. That's not what I meant. That's what I meant. So if you want to see exactly what the tests are doing, you can read the test file here. So the very first test actually is the init test. So what this is going to do is it's going to run a function that you have to define, and then it's going to test whether or not the function that you've defined is correct or not. So if I use a command line, I can do npm test, and then I can give it the name of the individual thing in isolation that I want to run. So in this case, it says init, so I can just give it a fragment of the file name. And if there's only one file that matches that, it'll only run the one thing. So npm test init will run this unit test here. If I hit enter, it fails because I haven't built it yet. But now we have a starting point for actually building this thing out. So let's do it. All right, so if you look at your source file, keep doing that, wrong button. All right, so if you look at your source file that you're meant to edit, you can see everything, just about everything, has a document or a piece of documentation that tells you what to do. So this is just a type definition. You just read it. Our axis align bounding box has this definition. What we need to do for this first unit test is to implement this init function. So let's read the documentation. So create and return an empty axis align bounding box using infinity and negative infinity for the min and max values respectively. Okay. And we will go into much greater detail in the class about, like during lecture, about TypeScript syntax and little gotchas and that kind of stuff. So if you're still feeling like you're out to sea, we'll get you covered. All right, so here I'm going to implement this function. So I know that I'm just going to return an object. And so I'm going to do return, and I'm going to open up my object. And now it's complaining at me for something. So learn to do this. So like I notice a lot of the times people will just have red squigglies all over the place, and they just don't see it because, maybe they're used to that or something. As an engineer, you need to pay attention to your signals. You're getting a signal right now that there's something wrong. So type empty object is missing the following properties from type AABB. It's missing the min and max XY values. Okay, so it knows to complain about that because this function, it declares that it returns this kind of object. It must return something that has these things. So it's got a min and a max X and Y. So min X is something, and we're going to do the same thing. Ooh, actually, it should be a comma. Every time I copy paste, there's a bug. So min X, max X, min Y, max Y. Okay, something obviously isn't right. What should we set it to? So consult the documentation here. Infinity for the mins and negative infinity for the maxes. So min gets infinity. And max gets positive infinity. Positive infinity. So now we're returning an object that has all the right things, and from a type safety perspective, we're all good. So if I got to remember to save the file, and then I go back into my terminal, and I run my init test again. By the way, I just hit up arrow for the win. That scrolls through your command line history. It's very nice to know. Anyway, npm test init, that will test the thing that we just implemented here. And I expect it to work, and it didn't. Why didn't it? Okay, so this is interesting. So I did something wrong. I don't know what I did. It expected negative infinity, and I received infinity. Did I get my things backwards? Oh, I typed a plus sign, and I meant to do a minus sign. So we have a few things that are protecting us here. One, we have TypeScript making sure that, if we're missing something, it'll complain at us that we're missing a thing. In this case now we're missing min x. Okay, we'll bring it back. The other thing that's helping us is the unit test, which is telling us whether or not our code is behaving correctly according to the unit test. So here I think I fixed it. So now if I up arrow and I run it again, now everything passes. Groovy. Okay, so I can do that same process with all of the other unit tests in here. Typically the intention is for you to work your homework assignments kind of in the order that they appear in the file. So you'll do the init AABB first, then you'll do the add point, and then you'll do all the things that come after that. And if you do it incrementally and run the unit tests for the individual function that you're working, that's probably an easier way for you to manage it in little bite-sized pieces. All right, so we've just done this one thing so far. So now I can show you how to submit your homework. So we've only done one thing, and we can imagine that we could run through the rest of it. So now I'm going to go into, let's use the let's use the git command line, or not the command line. Let's use the GUI. So these things are not Git. So this area up here is my Git client. So here it says that I've changed this file. The GUI is really nice because it gives you a lot of information easily. You just tap on the name of the file and it shows you what you've changed. I believe if this was bigger, maybe if I remove some stuff. Yeah, so if it has enough space, it'll show you the before and the after. The before is on the left and the after is on the right. Things that have been removed are in red. Things that have been added are in green. Let's just go back to the other way of looking at it. If it doesn't have enough room, it'll stack these two so it puts the before and after in the same spot. But you can see it was this, the red stuff, and now it's this, the green stuff. So here we're just looking at what's called the diff. This is the difference between the before and the after. So if we're happy with this, what we can do is we can add this to our change set. So that's staged that particular change. So think about Git and storing things in Git as sort of like when you're playing a video game, you might have a save point. You know, you work really hard and you accomplish something and okay, I'm going to save right there because I just did something cool and I don't want to lose that progress. Git lets you do the same thing. So here what I want to do is all this Herculean effort of typing in these, I guess, 6 lines of code. I want to save this forever. I want to make a save point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stage it. And if I had other files too, I could add those to the change set. And then when I'm ready to commit those changes, and I'm only going to commit the things that I've staged, I'm going to commit these changes and I'm going to give a message. I'll say something like implemented init AABB. Cool. You do have to give a commit message for everything. Yeah. So you could either hit this button here, or if you're using a command line, you could also do git push. Git push and sync changes are more or less the same idea. What you're doing here is that you're taking the changes, all of the commits, all of your save points, and you're going to push all of those save points up to the server. In this case, it's GitHub. And GitHub will run the automated tests on its side in its own environment to grade your homework for you. So I'm going to hit git push on that. And so now, if I open up a web browser, and if I go back to my repository, I'm just going to reload the screen, we can see that my commit here, implemented AABB, is there. And you can even click on it and see, yes, the server does indeed have that change. Here's a neat thing about GitHub and the way that I've set up the homeworks here. If you go into the actions area here, you can see that it's doing something right now. So it's looking at this particular commit, identified by the commit message that I just typed in, and it's running the auto grade. So if you follow this in here, you can see all the tests that it's doing. So since we've only made the init node function, right, init AABB, it only passed that one. But you can see the sanity check, which always passes, or it should always pass, that passed, and init passed. And you can see in the details up here, you can use the drop down. What exactly did it do for init? Okay, it passed. What exactly did it do for add? Okay, it didn't pass, and I get exactly the same messages locally when I do this. So there's no need really to push your changes to the server furiously. I mean, it's like you don't have to do it every time. Just when you're ready and you're passing your tests locally and you want to have GitHub regrade, then you can push it up. All right, so that about covers it. I'll just leave you with the thing that I showed you earlier, which is how to do all your homework which is written down for you. If I go back to general.md, it'll show you everything that I just went over, but it does it in text form, and maybe that jives with you a little bit better. I'm sure that there's also things in the text that I didn't mention just now because Obviously, I'm ad-libbing this. Yeah, so I hope that gets you set up for doing your homework. And if you have questions, throw things at me in class when you see me nicely, maybe, or email me. Also, make sure to go to office hours and your recitation and ask questions there. All right. Thanks a lot.